So let's go ahead and bring in Brian Taylor. He is the founder and CEO of Hafback, also located here in beautiful North Florida. So happy to have you, Brian, and welcome into the show. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And luckily, we made it through the storm pretty well up here.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely got lucky with that regard. South Florida, not so much. We're going to talk about that, a little bit later, especially with some of the disaster relief logistics that are going on. But I wanted to talk to you about the return logistics aspect because your LinkedIn bio says you're mission driven on bringing a sustainable return solution to the market to help eliminate the 6 billion pounds of return goods that end up in landfills annually. Now, it sounds really like an incredible program that you've built. How and why did you get this started up?
Yeah, well, yeah. So thank you for that. So I was working previously for a home decor brand, and as the VP of operations, kind of boots on the ground day one, returns hit me, smack in the face that, we're getting 6 to 8 pallets of returns back every day. We're paying to
Oh,
ship
wow.
these things back. There's a huge carbon impact, and a lot of times it was all for naught, right? So I mean, these items would come back, and oftentimes the product was in okay condition, but we didn't have really a way to sell that again as tier one goods. So that's why you see a lot of, you referenced the stat on my LinkedIn, 6 billion pounds of returns get thrown away annually every year just in the US because, the channels for these products just aren't that robust. Merchants don't have the bandwidth to kind of manage an additional, re-commerce channel. So, that was really kind of what, brought about the idea for Halfback. So, hey, let's create a marketplace where we instantly list returns the moment somebody says, you know what, this product's not right for me. It wasn't the right size. I changed my mind, which is really about 85+% of returns are just, the buyer, it falls under a bracket called buyer's remorse. So nothing wrong with the product per se. They no longer need it. So let's take this perfectly good product, find another buyer for it, offer them a great discount. The merchant saves a ton of money by not shipping the items back. And then, of course, the environment wins. We're not, emitting an additional leg of carbon emissions shipping these things back to the warehouses. We're keeping product in consumers' hands and out of landfills. And it's really a win-win-win for the new buyer, for the environment, for the merchants as well.
And so, with a lot of the different, I guess, phrasing that I hear around returns, this might sound like a dumb question, but is return logistics the same as reverse logistics?
Yes, it is. Yeah, they're interchangeable. Basically, what either of those means when you hear the term, reverse logistics or return logistics, that's just every step that goes into getting that product out of the original consumer's hands and then back to you as a merchant. So our goal, our mission with our platform is we basically eliminate that entire extra leg of returns logistics, reverse logistics, and turn it into forward logistics, right? So we're keeping this product moving forward and keeping it in consumers' hands rather than sending it back to where it's got to go through this whole value add cycle again.
That's super cool because there's another phrase that you use. It's called returns re-commerce. Can you break down what all this process entails?
Yeah, so returns recommerce is a term that we've kind of coined for this new style. We're kind of first to market with this solution. So, really what the idea there is recommerce by itself exists, and that's secondhand sales of goods. Of you've got a shirt in your closet, you've worn it out, you're ready to move on, and you might sell that on a traditional secondhand market. But we've kind of paired that into this new idea of returns recommerce, where we take that return the moment a consumer initiates the return. So they go in through our portal, enter their order, and say, "Hey, I want to return this for this reason." Qualified returns instantly show up for sale on our marketplace for somebody else to come along. They buy it at a discount, kind of an open box, but it's new in box. So all the product has to meet the merchant's return policies. So tags and tags, unworn in the original packaging. So we find a new buyer, and then we facilitate that peer-to-peer shipping. So we kind of power that logistics leg of getting the product from the returning customer into the hands of the marketplace buyer.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. I was thinking that you guys were, that a merchant, if they got something that needed to be returned, they would just ship it all in bulk to you and then you would relist it on your site. But you actually alleviate that extra transportation cost through this method. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so we have in our deck kind of a old style versus new style, and yeah, so basically whether you're shipping all your goods back to, there are dedicated returns warehouses, and then they serve a good purpose. But you still have all of that cost, all of those carbon emissions, all of the negative things that happen truly just because you're having to send item all the way back to a kind of a holding point. So yeah,
Mm.
we're eliminating all that and just trying to get it to go straight from peer to peer, and kind of eliminate that additional leg of logistics.
What happens if the returned item needs to be returned again? Who handles that? Does it go back to your company or does it go back to the original merchant? Or is it just final sale?
Yeah, so like most e-commerce marketplaces, it's final sale right now. In our roadmap is maybe some capabilities to kind of continue to keep relisting things within the marketplace so that we do keep stuff in buyers' hands. But kind of the initial play right now is buyers are getting a great deal, and kind of in exchange for that, it's an all sales final deal. But we ourselves will never take the product if the if is some kind of issue, the customer reaches out. We help with dispute resolution, and we will work with the merchant if they say that what, go ahead and send us the product back, and we'll take care of it from there. But for anything purchased on the marketplace, yeah, it's kind of an all sales final kind of a process.
Now you also sent us an image of what I assume is your store on Halfback, and that where folks can go and they can just the general public able to go to this store and be able to purchase items from there. You're just managing the back end process of it. Is that how I'm understanding it?
Correct. Yeah, so we're kind of both. We're kind of back of the house, in front of the house. So we've got the software that powers everything, kind of behind the scenes, from the return initiation, the logistics piece with shipping labels. But we're also the marketplace. So we are halfback.com. That is the marketplace where buyers will go and shop these kind of return e-commerce goods.
That's awesome. It's a really like a wholly new concept to me, which I think is super rad. So this also kind of might sound like a dumb question, but are returns only or return logistics, is it, or reverse logistics, whichever the phrase that you kind of want to use, but is it only a truck thing? Is it only handling, are these shipments only affecting the truckload market, or are we seeing returns for rail and maritime, cargo ships? Are we seeing return logistics in those modes of transportation, or is it only in trucking?
For who we're working with, kind of the D2C merchants, it's mainly trucking. There's really no intermodal play there. For some of the larger retail brands, I mean, they may do a return. They may get the return back from their customer, and then they may push those returns all the way back to the original manufacturer. And those may go via different, a rail segment, or potentially even over water or air. But everything we're doing, it's all D2C. So this is stuff that's kind of a US based, whether it's a 3PL or their own warehouse. They've shipped it out. Now they're kind of trucking it back to their warehouse.
Makes sense. Now, Q4 started this week, and you had said in a Twitter post that while most of the focus is on sales, that more effort needs to be put on returns. Can you break down that concept for us?
Yes, I mean Q4, obviously the shining stars there, your sales and your marketing team, everyone's getting ready for kind of that Black Friday, Cyber Monday, big retail push. But the traditional e-commerce return rate it averages 20%, and depending on your product vertical, I mean, it can reach 40, 50%. So, and that increases in the holidays, right? We kind of overconsume a little bit, whether we're, kind of buying things as we see them, they're on sale. We don't know who we're going to gift them to. Maybe we bought them for ourselves because they're on sale. And then, the holiday period kind of closes out, and that introduces this giant wave. Some publications, call it returns Armageddon or returns Mageddon. So, that, if you're talking about anywhere from 1 in 5 to every other package you ship out coming back, I mean that's a massive impact to your business. So if your focus is only on sales, which is great, we all want to grow that top line revenue, but when you've got those contra sales coming back in, all those credits for returns, product you're getting back now, it's out of season, you're kind of overstocked, you stocked up for the demand, and then a good portion of that comes back. So if you're not putting together a solution for what you're going to do with all the product that comes back, and now you start to see an inventory glut come January, and a lot of it's kind of dead stock by the time it gets back to you. So it's great to focus on top line. Obviously, Q4 is a big sales period for most brands, but if you don't have the back of your house in order, what you're going to do with these, what's the impact not only to your bottom line but your warehouse? It makes for a difficult beginning of the year for most retailers.
100%. And one thing that I think you would probably help alleviate a lot of those issues is another stat that I pulled from your LinkedIn, where it says over 67% of consumers will read your return policy before purchasing, and 80% of them are expecting free returns. Is offering free returns a concept that is going to fade out because of the cost associated with it, or is it just simply the cost of doing business?
I think, I mean, you've seen some big retailers like Zara's, trying to kind of claw back at that. It's free returns if you drop it off in store, but not if you want to, send it back through the mail. I think it's become table stakes. I've got another stat in there. 60 to 70% of kind of shoppers originate on Amazon, so they've already been kind of conditioned. Free. I'm going to get free shipping. I'm going to get free returns. So when they discover your product or they drill out and they end up on your site, they've already come to your site kind of conditioned for this experience. So I think it's a reality now that consumers online are going to expect free shipping and free return shipping. It's like I said, I think it's become table stakes at this point, and then so that's another area we help out, by not having to pay for return shipping, pay for all that burden labor at your warehouse, keeping that product moving forward. We're helping some of these SMB size D2C customers offer free return shipping because you're not having to pay for all these costs. So I don't foresee, I'd be shocked if we ever saw kind of free returns shipping go away. I think it's only going to increase. I think we just, some of the recent stats are over 50% of retailers now offer it. And I think that's only going to continue to climb.
Oh wow. So I mean that's an incredible stat with over 50% of retailers. Now for your solution in particular, is it more aimed at the small to medium businesses of the world, or is this, programs that larger retailers are implementing, or is this really a concept that both SMBs and the enterprise companies should really take advantage of?
Yeah, it's across the board. I mean, everybody, obviously enterprise, there's a huge volume play there. So I mean, the savings is exponential, both again on an economic and an environmental scale. But the SMBs, we talked to a couple that say, hey, yeah, we love the solution, but we're only getting a couple returns back a month. Does it make sense for us? And when you run through that math of the cost of shipping that product back, and again, you're kind of your overhead, you're talking thousands of dollars in savings annually, even if you're only getting a couple of returns back. And for brands that are trying to get up and running, kind of get that initial flywheel going. I mean, that's your marketing budget. That's your small owner's distribution for your store for the year. So I mean, the savings is there for everybody, and kind of the impact to your business. I think it scales with your return. So obviously, kind of your return rate, if we go back to that average of 20%, so 20% to a small company is huge. 20% to a big company is also huge.
I'm just thinking out loud here, but I wonder how much of that number is related to clothing. I would imagine that the overwhelming majority of returns is clothing related because it doesn't fit right, it doesn't look right. Is that a safe assumption, or are there other commodity categories that are higher in returns than you would expect?
Yeah, so clothing actually skews higher. And so that 20% is kind of balanced out between, apparel, footwear, which could be seeing return rates up to, 40 plus percent. And then you got hard lines, that, maybe they're, not as, fluid in terms of size and shape and fit and all that. So those kind of come in more of that 10 to low teens, and they help bring that average down. And of course, your apparel type items and people bracket buy. So, they don't know what size, so they'll buy two different sizes, keep the one they want, and then send the other one back. So that, of course, drives up the return rate and that kind of apparel space as well.
So whether you're a large or a smaller company, as sort of we're already in Q4, so you probably should already have a lot of these, I guess, plans in place. But for maybe businesses that don't have a return logistics plan in place, what should they be setting up for this year and in the foreseeable future so they can better manage this process?
Yeah, so if you don't have something, I mean, obviously, I would recommend us, but at a bare minimum, I mean, you want some type of returns portal that customer can go on and initiate the return because, so like some of the stats you referenced earlier, the easier it is to return something, the more likely they are to buy. So anything you can do to make that return process as easy for your customer, go ahead and start getting that set up now, before you get an influx. And it's going to take a lot of stress off your team, all right? Your customer service team, whether that's you or you have people, a team handling that. or your warehouse, again, to take the strain off of that and kind of shrink some of the burden you have on there. And then go ahead and start thinking about what is your plan for the product that comes back. Again, we would love to go ahead and sell that for you so you never get it back. But we also kind of realize that we won't sell everything that goes through the marketplace as much as we would like to. So items are going to come back. So are you set up and able to handle when they come back? What are you going to do with them? Are you paired up with another e-commerce platform or returns warehouse that's going to be dedicated to handling that for you? So kind of think about that customer interaction. How's the customer going to initiate the return? How's that product going to get back to me? And what am I going to do once we get it? And it even starts before there. I'd back up when I talk to kind of back in my operations life, kind of breaking it down into kind of, I call it like the 3 R's, right? So reduce. What are you doing on the marketing side to improve your copy and your content so you don't get as many returns that are just preventable because you didn't have good imaging or good sizing call outs? So, reduce the number of returns, recover it. How are you going to get it back to you? And then re-commerce. What are you going to do with it once it comes back?
That's super interesting because there's so many different options, and you could do yourself such an advantage if you have that plan in place as a retailer. I've even experienced a couple companies recently where I ordered from them, and the items didn't work, and instead of me sending the items back to them to return them, they just had me take a photo of them and then just keep them, and they gave me the credit back to my
Yeah.
account, which I thought was super interesting. I'm like, well, what's to stop? I feel like that's definitely like a lost leader for them. What's to stop, people from scamming that type of a system? But I imagine that there's things, caveats, maybe account monitoring to account for stuff like that. But it just seemed weird to me that some retailers are just, saying just keep the merchandise. Whereas if they had a solution like yours, then maybe they could get back a little bit of that money, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a good call out of kind of why we built this and why returns are such a problem that retailers would rather you just keep it, right, than send it back because the margins are so thin that by the time they pay for return shipping, and again, their warehouse, they don't have the space, they don't have a channel to do it. You've opened the package, you've ripped through it, they just can't resell it. So they say, you know what, it's a loss for us to take it back. And you'll see some people reference that as a green return, right? Just keep it, and the green being we don't have the carbon emissions of shipping it back, but really, that's kind of, I call it the ostrich with its head in the sand. That's the retailer kind of wiping their hands of it. Now you as the customer, you're stuck with it. And some people may take advantage and say, hey, great, I got this free item. I didn't have to send it back. But if you truly didn't want it, now you're stuck with an item that now you have the burden of selling it on eBay or some other channel, or you have to throw it away because you have no way to get rid of it. So it's really not a real great solution, although some people may love it when they end up with some free stuff, I guess, if you want to call it that. But from a brand perspective and just kind of an industry perspective, it's really not a solution.
Yeah, it's currently sitting in a donation pile, both from two different
Yep.
retailers right now that said just keep the merch, and it's sitting in a donation pile. So that I was a little excited at first, like, oh, I get free stuff, but I didn't want it. So what is the use of it? I guess somebody else can
Right.
take advantage of it. All right, now final couple questions. Now you've been in business for almost a year now. What lessons have you learned that you're going to take with you through this holiday season and then holiday seasons to come?
Oh man, so many. Like I said, a lot of the stuff we talked about earlier. There's a lot of focus on everything we do forward facing, so customer facing, and everything kind of back of the house becomes an afterthought. So whether that's getting set up for distribution, returns. I've noticed for us, my experience both with Halfback and then my own brand startups and previous in corporate life is don't take those things for granted. Don't neglect them to the last minute. They're certainly those things that we like to procrastinate on, and they're really kind of what that backbone that helps hold the house together.
Awesome. Great advice, great tips, great insight. Loved having this conversation with you, Brian. Where can folks follow more of your work? Check out Halfback, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so halfback.com, so HAFBACK. That's both the marketplace, and if you're a retailer, we've got some links there to take you out and find where you can download our software. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, anywhere you can find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. Great conversation. And we look forward
Thank
to
you.
watching more of this progress. So thank you so much.
All righty. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. Take care.
You too as well.